video acquaint you with the Unix way of thinking, which is different from the Windows way of thinking. Along the way, we'll go on a few side trips to help you understand why certain things work the way they do and how they got that way. Linux is not just a piece of software, it's also a small part of the larger Unix culture, which has its own language and history. This video is divided into 4 parts, each covering some aspect of the command line experience. Part 1. Learning the shell starts our exploration of the basic language of the command line, including such things as the structure of commands, file system, navigation, command line editing, and finding help and documentation for commands. Part 2. Configuration and the environment covers editing configuration, files that control the computer's operation from the command line. Part 3. Common tasks and essential tools explores many of the ordinary tasks that are commonly performed from the command line. Unix-like operating systems, such as Linux, contain many classic command line programs that are used to perform powerful operations on data. Part 4. Writing shell scripts introduces shell programming, an admittedly rudimentary, but easy to learn, technique for automating many common computing tasks. By learning shell programming, you will become familiar with concepts that can be applied to many other programming languages. Part 1. Learning the shell. When we speak of the command line, we are really referring to the shell. The shell is a program that takes keyboard commands and passes them to the operating system to carry out. Almost all Linux distributions supply a shell program from the GNU project called Bash. The name Bash is an acronym for Born Again Shell, a reference to the fact Bash is an enhanced replacement for SH, the original Unix shell program written by Steve Bourne. Terminal emulators. When using a graphical user interface GUI, we need another program called a terminal emulator to interact with the shell. If we look through our desktop menus, we will probably find one. KDE uses Console and GNOME uses GNOME Terminal, though it's likely called simply Terminal on our menu. A number of other terminal emulators are available for Linux, but they all basically do the same thing, give us access to the shell. You will probably develop a preference for one or another terminal emulator based on the number of bells and whistles it has. Making your first keystrokes. So let's get started. Launch the terminal emulator. Once it comes up, we should see something like this. This is called a shell prompt and it will appear whenever the shell is ready to accept input. While it may vary in appearance somewhat depending on the distribution, it will typically include your username at machine name, followed by the current working directory. More about that in a little bit, and a $sign. Assuming things are good so far, let's try some typing. Enter some random at the prompt like so. Because this command makes no sense, the shell tells us so and give us another chance. Now that we have learned to enter text in our terminal emulator, let's try a few simple commands. Let's begin with the date command, which displays the current time and date. A related command is cal, which, by default, displays a calendar of the current month. To see the current amount of free space on our disk drives, enter df. To display the amount of free memory, enter the free command. We can end a terminal session by either closing the terminal emulator window, by entering the exit command at the shell prompt, or pressing Ctrl-D.